we're hardwired to believe in God.
Yes.
And likewise, Dr. Olivia Petrovich, again at Oxford, she says atheism is an acquired position.
Oh, but do you know where it comes from?
They claim...
No. The idea of being wired to believe in God.
There's different theories, but I'm gonna give you the Islamic conception as well. One of the theories is that it's a survival mechanism, right? That we somehow need it to survive. Without it,
it's not somehow. There is some hypothesis on how.
Yes. But then, at the same time, a lot of people would say religion actually leads to violence. So how on earth is it a survival mechanism? Secondly, some people claim, it's something to do with genetics, something to do with intelligence. Islam gives you an answer, and you can decide to choose the answer or not choose the answer, because the Quran makes it clear: whoever wants to believe, whoever wants to disbelieve, disbelieve.
Yep.
That we have this innate nature which God put inside us, and when we get into trouble, that's when this nature comes out. That's the Islamic conception.
Okay.
And what Quran and Islam basically teaches is this: we are on this earth for a reason, and we have a purpose, and we are going to have accountability in the hereafter based upon what we do in this life. But if you were to say, look at both theism and atheism, under atheism, our conversation is a rearrangement of molecules.
Yeah.
At best. What's the difference between me taking a hammer and smashing the head of a chocolate bunny, or me smashing my own skull? It's the rearrangement of matter. There's no meaning, intrinsic meaning, value, hope. There's nothing.
Yes.
So doesn't theism make more sense?
And no, for me it doesn't.
Okay.
And I'll explain why. Then what is the sense? Okay, let's assume there is sense on this life, right, and on the earth, of living according to a book, to a set of rules, and then going to heaven. And then in heaven, what does that happen? What other meaning does the heaven give to you? You're just living, right?
Okay.
What is their intrinsic
we need to untangle
meaning to be there?
Sure. We need to untangle two different things. I'm going to answer your second question first, and then we're going to go back to the original point.
Yeah, and I have a couple of points that I want to go by that together.
Now, the reality of this world is different to the reality of the hereafter.
Okay.
So what God says is that heaven is what the eye has never seen, what the ear has never heard, what the human heart has never reflected about. So when we speak about another dimension, there's no point, because it's beyond our recognition.
Yeah.
Now the question which we can talk about is it real? That's what we can talk about.
Okay.
Now, since we're talking about meaning, Julian, me and you having this conversation, we're not speaking gibberish, are we? We have a meaning, we have a structure. We both have the ability to reason. Now, we have the ability to reason, but if we are a product of a blind, natural, mechanical force with no foresight, how do we have the ability to reason, and why are we conscious and sentient beings?
Well, I can explain that at some point, one of the individuals, by a mutation again, right, acquired an extra intelligence that he could pass on to his offspring.
Due to survival?
Yeah, because he was more intelligent.
Sure.
Then every other generation was able to think much more and think much more clearly. And the important thing is hypothesize. Because you can ask some people, even these days, living in a small village and somewhere in like close to North Pole, and you ask them, what do you think would happen if the beer was not white but black, for instance? And they cannot imagine it. They don't have the ability of hypothesizing.
It's beyond their paradigm, yeah.
Because they are used to just the real world. And that's what happened. One thing happened this way. One thing, just one small thing every single generation, and we got to the point where the extra consciousness we get compared to the animals just brings us to this conversation. Now, going back to the one idea that you mentioned.
Sure, but what you said there, it's correct in terms of an evolutionary explanation of survival value.
Yes.
But it's not correct as even an attempt in terms of truth. Because natural selection, it sees survival value, it doesn't see truth value. Even Steven Pinker, who's an atheist at Harvard, he's recognized that if what you're saying is true, which is actually an evolutionary hypothesis,
Yes.
that rationality evolved as a survival mechanism,
Yes.
he's realized, and so has other academics, that you can just as well survive on false beliefs as you can on true beliefs. And since you can survive on false beliefs just as well as you can survive on true beliefs, then how can you distinguish between the two? You can't. So what you just said is an explanation for human beings having survival value in terms of their cognitive capabilities, but not truth. And we're speaking about truth.
Okay, let's go again. Then I would bring a counter argument to what you said about creation, design. I think you claimed that there was a design and its complexity.
No, but let's deal with this issue first.
Okay, so
the truth. We're speaking about truth, and we believe truth is objective.
Yes, yes, okay.
Okay, and look, either this book exists or it doesn't exist.
I see it now.
Okay. So there is such a thing as truth.
Okay.
Our minds, we have the concept of truth. We're trying to arrive at truth.
Yes.
So natural selection only primes your brain for survival.
Yes.
It doesn't prime your brain for truth. It doesn't see truth. It doesn't care about truth. It cares about survival and reproduction. So we're speaking about truth. How does truth arrive in a world of natural selection?
My hypothesis, I think, works because but I will explain why.
Sure.
The truth-seeking is also, I think, a good way of surviving.
That's exactly what the hypothesis is. We've put it in different words.
Yeah, but
the thing is, the hypothesis that you're talking about, I'm not unaware of it. We actually have published studies on this hypothesis. But the proponents of the hypothesis, not you, not me, the proponents of this hypothesis, they themselves have said, you know what, guys? It can only give you survival, it can't give you truth. And nothing you can say in this conversation is going to add to the original hypothesis, unless you're a scientist or something.
Again, I'm in the position of agnostic, right?
Okay.
You claim a certain...
I claim there's truth.
Which is said by Allah.
God.
Now, how do you know that is true?
Okay. Now, firstly, when it comes to God, one of his names is Al-Haq, the truth. So because God is the truth, us having the concept of truth makes sense. Secondly, we as human beings, under the agnostic worldview, the atheist worldview, we're here to survive and reproduce, survive and reproduce, survive and reproduce. But right now, we're involved on a Sunday afternoon speaking about God, philosophy, theology, metaphysics. Nothing to do with survival and reproduction. You're not helping my survival and reproduction right now.
Well, maybe you can get a girl somewhere around here, and then that helps, right?
Say I can't have children, right?
Okay. But just a second. But that is the point of evolution, right? Passing on the genes. It's not necessarily that you live indefinite. It's that you pass your genes to someone.
No, I get that. But right now, most of our psychological and our social behavior is not due to survival and reproduction.
Oh yeah, we've moved beyond that.
We're way beyond that.
Yes.
So this is why philosophers such as David Stove, who was an atheist philosopher of science, he wrote a book called Darwinian Fairy Tales, and he basically says this. He's an atheist, he believes in natural selection, not natural selection, he believes in naturalism, and he basically says human behavior and our psychology makes no sense under a Darwinian paradigm because we do so many things which are un-Darwinian. A human being sits on a rocket on 50,000 tons of fuel to go to space. That doesn't help his survival and reproduction. You have monks, like for example Isaac Newton, brilliant guy, intelligent guy. Do you know his greatest achievement according to him?
What was it?
He believed his greatest achievement was not physics, it was that he died a virgin. Right?
Okay.
How on earth does that make sense from a Darwinian paradigm? It doesn't.
Yeah,
so under the concept of God, human behavior and our search for truth and our rationality makes sense because God is the truth, God is the knowing. From the knowing and from the truth, we human beings are a product, and we also are knowing and we also have truth.
إذا أعجبك الفيديو لا تنسى الإعجاب والتعليق. ولكي يصلك كل جديد اشترك الآن.